Hey there, Cyclones. This is Mr. Pickett, and I guess happy Monday. What we're going to be looking at today is kind of a new section, and we're going to be looking at the human population's impact on biodiversity. So, before we dig into that, I want to make sure that we understand the word biodiversity. We've seen it before, it's been a bit. Bio means anything that's living, so plants, animals, or anything that's in between that. And then diversity is I guess the different number of species that exist. And we've talked about before why this is important, but it is a big deal to have diversity in an ecosystem on our Earth. So one thing that I want us to see immediately here is the population of the human race as it's increased fairly significantly from the middle, like 1975 area, and where we expect the population to kind of eventually turn to once it gets to be 2050. And these are huge numbers. When we start seeing thousands of millions, that means that we're talking about billions of numbers. So in the year 1800, we had about a billion people. And then by the time that we got to, about 1925, so we're talking about 125 years, we went to 2 billion. And that has increased significantly in smaller and smaller amounts of time. So where we're at right now is we're about 7 to 8 billion. Is kind of where our human population is at. All right, so human population growth. So there was a scientist in the late 1700s, Thomas Malthus, who wrote a very controversial essay that talked about the human population outgrowing the ability for the Earth to sustain human life. And we talked about that. That term is carrying capacity. And carrying capacity is the amount of organisms that a certain environment can hold, depending upon all the resources that it has. And so we'll notice that we have population of maybe humans, and then we have food production. And if there gets to be a point where the population exceeds the amount of food that's produced, then we get a Malthusian catastrophe, which is basically plague, war, famine, all this stuff. And so, again, if we ever go above that, we get poverty and famine as a result. So, what are some factors that affect human population growth? Um, so Malthus didn't consider and didn't believe that the carrying capacity of an environment was able to change. However, we know that that's something that we've been able to change. So things that have influenced the population growth of humans, our farming practices have gotten better, which includes pesticides and genetically modified organisms. Sanitation has been a big improvement, which has allowed us to rid us of some diseases. And as a result, our water quality and food safety has increased significantly. And then advances in medicine. All these things have allowed us to influence the amount of resources that we produced, and also get rid of some of the famine and disease that used to exist, and slow the growth of populations. Now, some interesting things that exist here. In the mid 1800s, we actually didn't regularly wash our hands, and this is one of the main reasons actually that the human population, not one of the main reasons, but a good reason why the human population has increased. Again, about sanitation, about ridding ourselves of disease. And I thought now is a fantastic time to reintroduce this because of the time that we live in right now, how important washing hands is. And you see that this is a poster from 1964, right? So that way these were talking about why it was important to do some of these things, because we had diphtheria and tetanus immunizations, so some things that were affecting the human population back in the 1960s. Again, the human population in 2011 was about 7 billion, and we project that that population is going to end up being about 9.5 billion by 2050. Again, we have washing our hands being an important piece, and again, this is something that a poster designed after World War II. It's funny how things that were maybe in style several years ago are kind of rounding their way back in. Washing your hands should always be in style. And then again, wash your hands before touching your eyes. I see this all the time on the news. It's just incredible. So human population is a big thing, and as our human population increases, it definitely puts a strain on our environment, and as a result, the Earth that we share with other organisms feel that strain as well.